We're going to look at the next equation, solving linear systems, but this time we're going to use subtraction. This is more working towards total elimination. So pull out your notes from the last video, add to it the steps, and do the examples on it. We're going to do the same thing. Have your textbook out, have your paper out, have your pencil out, have your calculator out, so you can practice these with us and take your notes. Right. So here is a problem we're going to look at, and the easiest thing I think to get these in your notes is just to do one and to write your steps down. So I'm going to go slow. And the reality is, if I was working this, I would just add these straight down, just like we did yesterday, because my negative 3x and my positive 3x would eliminate themselves. But on this lesson, you're specifically told to subtract. Later, when you can pick, I don't care which method you use, but we're going to go ahead and work through this one and learn how to do it. So your first step is to subtract. So here's the thing you have to remember. There are 1, 2, 3, technically 4 terms of this bottom equation, and we need to subtract the bottom equation. Now there's this process in which we would technically have to distribute a -1 to all of my terms, and I have to stop and process through and think, but here's the thing. I can get to the end result and think less, which is always good for me. In order to do all of that, just change the signs of all your terms. Everything that's positive becomes negative. Everything that's negative becomes positive. But we're only going to do this to the bottom equation because the top equation we're not changing. We're subtracting the bottom equation. So top equation stays. Change the sign of all terms of the bottom equation. Okay? So when I do that, my top equation stays. Negative 3x plus y plus 4. My bottom equation becomes minus 3x minus y plus 2. And of course 0 doesn't have a sign, so it stays. So change the sign of all equations, or of all terms of the bottom equation, which is not hard, right? Here's the thing, there's a lot of steps here. None of them are hard. There's just a lot of steps here. Now we're going to do, from this point, we're going to do just like we did yesterday, okay? So when I add straight down, I have negative 6x plus 6 equals 0. Those y's canceled themselves out. They eliminated themselves. I'm going to move that plus 6 over. It's going to become a minus. Now I need to get rid of the other negative 6, and because I'm multiplying on the left, I divide on the right, and negative 6 divided by negative 6 is 1. Now we're going to plug that in and solve, and I can pick any equation just like yesterday. I use the top equation, plug in my value for x, which was 1. So negative 3 times 1 plus y plus 4 equals 0. Work through that, and we're going to, well, goodness, sorry about that. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. Move that over, and I end up with y equals negative 1. And remember, because I am looking for the point where these two lines intersect, I'm going to put that into yx form, and that gives me 1, negative 1. So really, this is just like yesterday's, except for this right here. Okay, so if you could do yesterday's, you can do today's. Just remember we're subtracting, so we're going to change the sign of every term of the bottom equation. Let's look at this one. Negative 3x plus y minus 5 equals 0. 4x plus y plus 2 equals 0. Remember, this is a system of equations, so they're connected in most textbooks by the squiggly line. We are going to use these two equations to find where those lines intersect. So what we're going to do, we are going to subtract. In order to subtract, what are we going to do? We are going to, I'm going to get my pen to work first. There we go. Change all signs, that says sing, And good night, Minerva. We are going to change all signs of the bottom equation. And I did realize I changed reds there. So our top equation stays exactly the same. The top equation stayed negative 3x plus y minus 5. But my bottom equation, because I'm subtracting, I'm going to change all my signs. My plus 4x, or my understood plus 4x, became minus. My plus y became minus. My plus 2 became minus. So I've changed all the signs of my bottom equation. Then I'm going to just add straight down, because these are like terms. These are like terms. These are like terms. These are like terms. Eventually, you won't have a 0 at the end, but for right now, you do on all of them, even on your homework. I'm looking at it right now. So, and we just add straight down. Negative 3x minus 4x is negative 7x. The y's cancel out. Y minus y is 0, so it just goes away. That term disappears. Negative 5 minus 2 is negative 7, and that equals 0 because 0 plus 0 is 0. Now my next step is to solve for x. So my first step was to subtract. My second step is to solve for x. To do that, I'm going to move my minus 7 over. It's going to become plus 7. Now I'm going to move my negative 7 over, and because I'm multiplying it on the left side, I'm going to divide it on the right side, which means x equals negative 1. So none of that math is hard. There's just a lot of steps here. Now my third step is to plug that value in and solve for y. I am going to use the top equation. I'm going to use the equation that I didn't manipulate in any way, shape, or form. So I have negative 3 times negative 1. Let me kind of just draw an arrow here to make sure you see what I've done. If I can get my, here we go. X is negative 1. So I've plugged that in right here. Negative 3 times negative 1 plus y minus 5 equals 0. And now I just solve. I'm going to solve this just like I would if I was solving for x. I'm going to multiply my negative 3 times my negative 1, which gives me positive 3. And I'm not using anything else. I'm going to write it down. Write everything down. Now I'm going to add any like terms. Well, in this case, I have 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. So negative 2 plus y equals 0. Now I'm going to move my negative 2 over, but I'm going to move that minus 2 over, so y equals 2. Now remember, that is the correct answer. I could leave it like that, but what I'm asking you for, well, not me, what your textbook and any other math curriculum doing this concept, it's asking you for the point, so you need to have it in a coordinate form, which means x, then comma, then y. So x, y. This is the format your answer needs to be in. X, y. Okay, and that's it. The math of this is not hard. There's just a lot of steps here. Okay, here's this one. X minus y plus 2 equals 0. 2x minus y plus 5 equals 0. What I would really love for you to do, I would really, really love for you to write this one down, and I would really love for you to try this all by yourself, and then come back and check it. So write it down, pause the video, do the work, then turn it back on and check it. And I'm going to do it. Okay, you've all been good students and have worked this without me, correct? Of course you have, because you're good students. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Step 1, we're going to subtract. When we subtract, we change the sign of everything on the bottom equation. Top equation stays the same. Bottom equation, signs change. Then I just add vertically my x's, my y's, my no variable terms. And I should end up with negative x minus 3 equals 0. The y term goes away. Do not forget that there is an understood 1 right here. So it's 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. And if you want to write negative 1 here so you don't lose it, absolutely fine. Okay? So now I've subtracted. Now I've got to solve for x. So I'm going to move my negative 3 over. So negative x equals 3. Now technically I have negative 1x. and I'm multiplying those two things because two things side by side with no sign means multiply. I'm going to move that negative 1 over, and because I'm multiplying it on the left, I'm going to divide it on the right. 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. Now I'm going to take that value and I'm going to plug it in right here. So instead of x, I have negative 3. Negative 3 minus y plus 2 equals 0, and I'm just going to solve for y. I'm going to combine my negative 3 and my 2. So I have negative y minus 1 equals 0. Different signs, I subtract and keep the sign from the bigger number. Move that negative 1 over, I have negative y equals 1. Technically, I have negative 1y equals 1. To get y by itself, I'm going to move the negative 1 over, and because I'm multiplying it on the left, I'm going to divide it on the right, and 1 divided by negative 1 is 1. So there's my values. X is negative 3, y is negative 1. All I have to do is put it in the right format. And the right format is in a coordinate set. So I'm going to have x, comma, y, and there is my answer. So write those steps down. Step 1, subtract. Step 2, solve for the variable. Step 3, fill in. Step 4, solve for variable. Step 5, put it in a point form. Don't get bogged down in all the steps. Just do one piece at a time. So just like last lesson, if you will do the third classwork problem, I am almost positive the example we did was your first problem. I'm not 100% sure because I'm not looking at it, but I think it is. So you can check on that. But right now on your own, do the third classwork problem on page 257. There are 3 of them. And the classwork section, activity 1, or classwork 1, I believe is what it's called. Do that third one on your own, in your textbook, on your note page, wherever you want to work it, and then come back and check your answer. Here's the problem. 3x plus y minus 5 equals 0. 3x minus 2y minus 8. So step 1, my first equation stays. Because I'm subtracting, the sign of everything changes. So it becomes negative 3x plus 2y plus 8. I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit quicker because you should have already worked it. That gives me 3y plus 3 because my x's eliminated themselves. 3x minus 3x, it goes away. Solve that down and I end up with y equals negative 1. Now I'm going to plug that in, and I am going to plug it into the top equation. 3x plus negative 1 minus 5 equals 0. I end up working my way all the way down, and I get x equals 2. And now remember, the form for your answer needs to be a coordinate, so x, y. So if you did not get to negative 1, look back through and make sure, you see if you can find your error on this page, or not page, problem. So for homework, you're going to just complete all of page 257. If there's a problem to work on that page, do it. That's your homework.